All right. So remember next March 11th is when we'll have the in-class test, take-home test. Remember on the take-home, show your work. So just make sure to do that to get credit on the take-home. Also, next Tuesday is when midterm grades will be due. So if there's any adjustments, I'll make that. Like if you worked on something ahead of time, I'll take that into.
Just get curiosity, is the take home test online or is it on paper?
So the take home is it's like you could drop box it or you could bring it in.
Okay.
It's up to you, whichever is easier. It's like so you could print it out and whatever. Or you could type if you wanted to type your work in Word.
Okay, awesome.
I'm pretty sure that time limit on it.
Say again?
Had a time limit on it.
I think I took it out, but it still says it
Okay.
does. But I'll make sure to put that out.
Okay.
Because it should just download. Yeah. Print it out whenever you all those, maybe those practice tests, dude. Did you try the practice? They might still, because those were supposed to be the original tests. But there's a lot. That's what I was going to. I'll talk about here. There's weird things. So midterms that'll calculate. So that's going to be before the test. So you might want to work on. I think everybody's well caught up on the homework. But let's go ahead and get started here, and I'm going to try to. This is going to be what we used to call in the military death by PowerPoint. But it's not, it won't be that as deadly as one might think. I tried to make it a little more interesting. But as you can see, what I'm going for here is once again establishing these algorithms. Because there's a lot of problems in here, and I'll go back over these. I'm just showing them. There's a lot of problems, right? But I'm going to show you that there's a pattern there. And if you can establish your Desmos and you can get to where we got last time, the other parts are fairly easy. So I'll show you. I just wanted to, as a little joke. I don't know if you remember whatever tech Musk had when he was interviewing the president. Remember, there's this long delay, and he said it was a DDoS, a distributed denial of service. So I just wanted to, so like here's to say you got your news. It's happening around the time when homework and other assignments are due. Be careful. Be careful about spam, hackers, bots, whatever. If anything pops up in D2L, be very cautious. So make sure you're paying attention to what's supposed to be due. So right now we're on homework 8, so that's basically the goal for this week is homework 8. So just take it away. I was just throwing that out because the previous instructor has things timed in there. So you may have noticed that on the due date, it threw a bunch of different assignments at you. I didn't do that on purpose. I apologize for that. But and like I was saying last time, these are the ones I think we'll focus on a little bit because it's very business related and I think that's probably the big thing when you take out of this is that part. We'll talk a little bit about exponential, we'll talk about a little bit about voting, but mainly this is the meat and potatoes of this class. So we'll go ahead and just try to make it a little exciting. Anybody ever saw the movie Wall Street? It's an old movie. But it's basically so like in the 80s, right? It was almost a free run on the market, like total low regulation. And there was this bubble, I think it was 80, 89, something like that. Bubble burst. Another movie to see if you're a business person is The Wolf of Wall Street. Have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah, so that was that crash whenever Matthew McConaughey leaves his cameo is over is once the party crashes. And, so anyway, this is Wall Street, and this is a classic. This is a classic, and it even shows up in a discrete math textbook where Gordon Gekko, played by Michael Douglas, talks about basically what he's talking about here is the basis, the foundation of capitalist thought and free enterprise. Ever heard of Adam Smith? The invisible hand. His belief was that in free market capitalism, the equilibrium would occur and everyone would benefit and everybody would be happy. Nobody would be left behind. Everybody, the equilibrium price, all those factors would benefit consumers as well as producers. Later on, we have Keynes, right? He changed the idea on that, believing that there could be some fiscal policy to stimulate the economy. And he also increased government spending during times of low economic activity, perhaps even recessions and things like that. Keynes was popular probably when I was in college the first time in the 90s, when Nirvana was cool and Kurt Cobain was still alive. But anyway, the point here is that he's basically describing the idea, but he uses a word, and by using that particular word, it added impact to his speech. And I'll show you this. Sort of story of the 80s leading up to that crash. So based upon that, sorry, playing rock and roll music. Anyway, so here's what I'm gonna do. Let's just find an algorithm. Has anybody tried out using Desmos in this way? Whenever you have these massive problems, that's usually the way to go because they're just going to be the same thing over and over again. You just want to change your variables, like change your p. So just looking at this, how many years is the loan? 13. Why did we multiply it by 12 months? And because remember, we're always talking about this is actually M, right? The payment. The only thing different from what we did last time is we take the monthly payment and multiply it by basically N 12 times 13. So what is that calculation? What we're getting is the total cost. So like in everyday words, we're calculating a monthly payment, then we're multiplying by all the pay periods over all the years, right? So this becomes total payments. So keyword, a lot of easy, not bad math. It's just what are they asking for more than is these keywords. Where's the APR? And remember, we're just calling it R. We're not going to get complicated by using I or anything like that. So, any questions with that operation? We're just extending what we did last time. and then doing some this is how I liked it. I like to calculate this and then I look at the numbers. I can see my payment. You could use variables there too if you wanted to. Like you could assign M, and then it would be M, you know what I mean. So, and the reason I'm getting at that is, look at this number. And by the way, notice I ran AI on it, and AI gave the wrong answer. I'm not saying AI is wrong. It's just, but like I got the one that the textbook says. Let's see how closely those choices are. Close those choices are. What did AI? AI said it was A or the AI says this one. Those are not off by much, are they? Well, that's a tough call. I think either one of those would have been acceptable with that amount of $410,000. Just about a little over $100 is not that significant in that calculation. But remember, we got to choose the right ones. Just be aware of that. Sometimes, and I was telling you, I think this is my theory. I think AI is just like a human. If it has access to a note card of the entire web. So it's going to look at this problem that's everybody's done, and it's going to zero in. I think it backtracks, like finds something that makes sense. I don't know, but anyway, just be aware that it does take a human eye, because it's just going to fall into patterns. Again, notice here, monthly payment calculating. This is called what's in green? Total payment. Total payment. What is that in everyday language? For taking all the payments, multiplying by all the periods. How much did we borrow? So about 200,000 went to 400,000. So that's the question. But that just depends on what your target is. What if my target is I need a car, I can afford this, then you're just going to try to get yourself going. Hopefully things will turn around and you can but you need that car to get started or whatever. You need that thing. You need that asset to get started. You need that asset to turn on the lights to get the factory going or whatever. But see, look at the cost. It's almost double this. So what would happen if we were to change the number of years? Would we pay it off faster if we went lower? Less than 20?
Probably.
Yeah. And then that payment should go down. Or no, the payment will go up, right? But you'll pay it off faster. And you'll end up paying less total. And that's what we're going to see in these next few examples. But I find the most complicated thing about these is the terms. But if we go through these, we'll start to see the pattern of what they're looking. Total payment. Again, total payment, right? Same algorithm. So it looks like we almost paid double again. 30 years, right? So, but it's got a fairly low interest rate. So there's a lot of different factors that go into this. And when you're trying to think, oh man, that's 4%. That other one's this way, then it's 30, then it's then we got when he types it in, it comes up with the amortization form. It says this is your payment. That's how the magic works, right? But it's a good idea to think about what you're paying. If that's your concern. If your concern is I need to get that asset now, then go with the payment. But like, hey, I'm cool. I'm just gonna invest in this yacht and I'll pay it off as quickly as possible. That's about the price of. Is that cheap for a yacht? 206,000. I don't know what's a yacht. Million.
I think that's like a minimum of like 30 feet, like a 30-foot boat is easily in the multi-millions.
Multi-million, so less than 10 million or?
Probably, I think there are definitely a couple of yachts. They're supposed to be considered yachts for under 10.
Over 10. Well, it's a good thing we got the tax break on the third one. No. I was looking forward to that. I'm happy about that. That third yacht was killing me. Anyway,
That's a real thing.
yeah, I think they've changed the code. It used to be just 2 yachts for deductible, and now you can deduct 3. So anyway, that's just the way it is, right? So, uh, remember the victors write history. Anyway, so we go. We got our total paid. Same thing we did before, right? Payment times the n times the 12. Then we get that. But note, what's this calculation right here for total interest? Total interest. What's that 70,998? Where does that come from? That's your principal. So we calculated the total payments, subtracted the principal. That's how much interest we pay. It's a lot of interest, right? We don't even realize sometimes because we're just like, you gotta make the payment, gotta make the payment, gotta make the payment, right? So you get the idea of this additional step? Total payment minus principal. That's how much interest you pay. So how much? Well, let's just go with that. That's interest. And notice that if I add this to that, I get this, right? So there's this inner thing. So that's why I'm saying is sometimes they're gonna ask. See, so it says 7098 pays out the principal and 36,816.23 represents interest payments. See, add those together, what do you get? Oh, get your total. I guess that's what I was trying to demonstrate here. They both got to add up to the total paid, right? Yeah. Anything? Oh, notice I use P. You could do that. I take the principal and then it down here. Same thing. Same scenario, right? Just breaking apart between interest and paid towards the principal, right? I don't. Well, it's clear to me. I can't think of any other way, and the only way I can think is using the numbers there, and I think it makes sense, right? And like, be careful. Some of my screenshots on Desmos may have had some junk at the bottom. It's kind of late at night, so, but most of them are pretty accurate. And so notice how they're going to do this now. They're going to do them like this, right? As like a respectively type of a thing. So, and this is a credit card. This is a credit card, but it's still the same now. What's 0.18? Yeah. What's the one? Yeah, it says 1 year up in here. I just put that in there to keep the formula going. We get our payment, our monthly payment. Notice this time I did use M. That's what it means. And then say here, M times 1 times 12. There you go. But the only thing you want to be careful for is, let's see how do they say it? So it says monthly payment and total. I mean, you can kind of tell which one goes where, but notice how it says the monthly payment first. It's obvious it's going to be because it's a smaller number. But when you start looking at something like that, can look a little weird and the way it's organized there. Okay, we're starting to transition. Well, that's a good sign. It's really the same. Right, it's actually the same thing. It's actually the same. Notice the payments in front and then the total. Payment in front, total. You got the idea. And then don't worry, there's like 10 more after this series that are basically the same. But I'm just gonna set you up to get started on that. Because that's why I was suggesting the Desmos. That way you can just type in the numbers. Because we got the idea, we know what it means. Why are we testing ourselves how well we plug in formulas whenever we could do this? That's what we need to know, right? That's the information we need to know. But I want to show you something like I was seeing if there was a pattern they were looking for on this credit card. So it's still the 3,200, right? Here it was 21 at 2 years. Here's the 32 at 19 at 3 years. So we just we just change those things around and see how that changed that. Start to see how these problems are going to go over and over. Yeah. Same type of thing. Payment, total payment. Here's where the big one happens. All right, we got to move. We got to get this asset. We got to purchase this asset. We need it now. That's the only way we're going to make payroll next time. So here's the first option: a 30-year loan at an APR of 8%. The other option, a 15-year loan at 7.5. So we got the 0.8. We got the 0.75. It's still the same principle, right? The only thing that's changed is the rate and how long we do it. Which one is better? Option 1 or option B? Right, because typically does it say cheaper or better? Oh, it just wants us to figure out. The next step is which one's better. So like if like to you like throwing another $100 at the creditors, and maybe that's what you want. But anyway, get the idea. Option 1, option 2. Again, here it is like in this way. Do I do the go code as a CEO? Do I say yes, option 1, or with the chief financial officer? Do I say this option or not? I need data. Give me some data so I can make this decision. So you calculate it. Notice it's the same principle, changing the N around, and we end up back over here. And which one? I think it says the cheapest. Which one's the cheapest? Option 1, right? So we would give the go code of op 1 or whatever it is coded that for. Any questions on those? It's all the same thing, right? Same thing. See, that's why I said sometimes there's some garbage down there. But anyway, it's the same idea, right? Which one's bet less? So then it'd be option 1 again, right? I just made it this way to be businessy. Isn't that what you see in business slides all the time? These classical templates. And don't you dare try to change it because it'll freak out. Like if you try to make 4, they'll come out different shapes and that being said, So before, and what's interesting is I was talking to some of my friends about this little presentation, and notice I put Gordon Gekko as the CEO, right? I want to put Brad Pitt here as the CFO. Then some people said, no, it should be the other way around. Brad Pitt's the CEO, and Michael Douglas is the what's a CFO? Chief Financial. He's the money guy, right? The numbers guy, right? So let's play it. Here it is, Brad Pitt. Call him CEO, call him CFO, whichever you please. So it's oftentimes capital trading and business, bear markets, bull markets, alligator markets, teddy bear markets, whatever kind of market, favorite animal, spirit animal market, I don't know. But anyway, that's capitalism, right? And that's the whole idea. Uh, anybody ever heard of John Nash? There's a movie called The Beautiful Mind. He was a mathematician who did coding for the military, and he came with a game theory. And if you watch the movie, you'll see it. Basically, they're all saying, "Okay, I'm going to go for this." They're all in the bar. They're all college age. I want to go. I want to try to ask this girl out. And they're saying, "No, no, I'm going to ask her out. No, 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 I'm going to ask her out." And they're like, "Hey, we're just going to end up blocking each other. Nobody's going to get the girl." So what they did was they said, "Okay, well, let's just break. Take this one, take the, you know what I mean?" So it's like a mutual effort. I hate to say it like that, but that's where he got the idea for his Nobel Prize winning game theory. And it's based upon a equilibrium where not everyone is out for themselves, but you find some sort of equilibrium and everybody achieves. Maybe somebody doesn't become a 700 billionaire, but maybe everybody gets what they need and whatever. But that was John Nash's theory, not mine. But I'm just pointing out the different theories. And then when I was studying economics, I thought, oh yeah, this is solid. But it's not. It's different theories. So, like I was saying, we started off with the Adam Smith type of thing, and then we went into the Keynesian type of thing, and now we appear to be at the Milton Friedman. Everybody heard of Milton Friedman? He's a conservative economics extremely. He felt like everything should be unregulated and running completely free, no regulations. And somebody asked, so at the time he was popular, was the Pinto was blowing up. People were crashing in it. You ever seen a Pinto? It's like a weird car. It's got a little hatchback. People were colliding. The gas tank was right there. It was exploding. And somebody asked Milton Friedman at some conference, like, what do you mean? Shouldn't there be regulation for that? And he replied, well, cost benefit. Only a few people died here by exploding gas tanks and Pintos. And we wouldn't have learned anything if we didn't have people blowing up and exploding in Pintos. So the market should adjust. Hey, we don't want Pintos blowing up and exploding on people, and then it'll adjust and go on. But anyway, those are the theories that are out there. I did want to point out one other thing. Anybody ever heard of an annual? What is it called? I call it a fluctuating mortgage. But they call it the RARM. And I'll show you this. So that is a adjustable rate mortgage. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about what gave birth to the 2008 financial crisis, housing crisis. If you're offered a real nice loan, if you're offered a real nice rate in the first year, are you going to grab it? Even though they tell you it's going to increase later, probably going to grab it, right? Most people did. And then they were shocked 3 years later when their mortgage payment skyrocketed. The bottom fell out of the market, and we know the story. Enron and Bank of America, various things occurred during that time. And again, I think it was, and a lot of people say, oh, it's because of free market reign and limited regulation. Anyway, this is it. This is what we'll start on next time. So it's a type of home loan where the interest rate starts lower than the traditional fixed price, and then it changes. So like the first year will be set at something, second it'll be something, and then it's going to gradually get higher and higher. But we'll go into this more detail. I just wanted to end on that note. An adjustable rate mortgage, which is largely many people blame for the bottom falling out of our housing market in 2000. Any questions, concerns? So should be able to knock all those out. There's just a few at the very end. I think it's about 31 or so when it does the ARM. So you can certainly give those a go, but we'll go over those on Friday. Okay, no questions, and I'll see everybody Friday. Friday. Are y'all burning out already? Is it the